All right, so good morning, everybody. It's about 10:30, so we're gonna get rolling this morning. Today we're gonna have Ben be our star performer. He's gonna talk about, sorry if there's an echo. But he's gonna talk about some current technology topics and updates. So if you want to start, you can touch on the Fastly internet outage that occurred this morning.
Yeah, you might want to do that. Hi, everybody. Glad you made it to this. This recording is being, this presentation is being recorded, and obviously on Thursday you'll get a link to it. Yeah, Fastly. So Fastly is a cloud provider that provides the backend for some media websites and maybe some other companies. But early this morning, many common websites like Amazon, Reddit, Google, Instagram, Twitter, and many others went down early this morning for a little while, and it's all pointed to this Fastly company. So just like Azure at Microsoft and AWS at Amazon provide the backend for many websites, apparently Fastly provides the backend for a lot of these companies, and they went down. And I just read an article that came out an hour ago that says the company is saying they're not sure whether it's a hacking thing or not, but we'll find out later today probably what's going on. So that's where we are with that. I think everything that was down is now up again. So, all right, so the tech team is back. And today we have a number of topics. Hopefully you can see what I shared. Today, cybersecurity due diligence. We've had questions about what that means and what do you do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Internet Explorer versus Edge for well-served. Many of you have been hearing about that. Spoofing, phishing emails. I'm going to go through a number of examples that probably you'll be familiar with some of these examples of emails that get sent to you all the time, trying to phish you and get you to install malware or your credentials to a hacker. So, and then we'll touch on ransomware and the Colonial Pipeline attack that brought down their company and caused, fuel shortage on the East Coast and in the South in some places. I'll touch on VPN briefly, and then Windows Update. The latest Windows Update, the larger type Windows Update is available now for Windows 10, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then the last thing, we're going to touch on cybersecurity insurance if you're interested in that. All right, so let's start here. So this might be a little small for you to see. We're going to share this in the email on Thursday if you want to look it over. But the due diligence, so I guess it's incumbent on you to try to do things to prepare for loss of data or hacking. We have a sample cybersecurity policy on our website. We also sent it out, after the last time we talked about it in this meeting. I just put a little image on here of the kind of things you want to think about, like document where your data lives. So not all your data is on your computer at work. It may be on a server also, maybe on other computers at home or at work. You got to think about that. Think about what could mean, who could mean you harm, external and internal. That may be a little difficult. I guess you could think about like an employee that recently left your company, that kind of thing. But there's other people that could want to harm your data or your network or something. So it's good to think about that. Think about what can disrupt your business, I guess, as far as cybersecurity and many other things. How likely attacks and disruptions are, determine how bad these things are for your business, and some other things. So, and also we want to touch on if you're looking to figure out the cyber policies and privacy policies that the companies offer that you work with. For example, I was making an example of for example, Redtail. You could Google Redtail privacy, and then right there at the top of Google is their privacy policy. You click and go to Redtail and read it. Same thing, Redtail cybersecurity policy. They have a page for that comes up right at the top of Google search. Click, go there. So whatever company you're looking for, you could probably do that. If you don't find it in the Google results or Bing results or whatever you like, yeah, go to that website and click around the footer at the bottom or the top. There might be handy links to these. You've seen that before, probably. So. That would be good to do. All right, the next thing we want to talk about is Internet Explorer. Microsoft is giving, they recently got rid of Adobe Flash on Windows computers because Adobe retired that. So Microsoft put out an update to remove Flash from Windows 10 computers. Next year, Microsoft is getting rid of Internet Explorer. They may do some kind of, like in a Windows update, have it gone eventually. So it's good to talk about. We've always encouraged everybody to primarily use Internet Explorer over the years for well-served, but in recent years, you can, with a little modification, you can use it on the Microsoft Edge browser that, Microsoft urging you to use in lieu of Internet Explorer now. You can also set up well-served to work fully in Google Chrome. At this time, you cannot use Firefox for well-served, although you could years ago, but things changed.
They're looking at June of next year. Is that
I think
right?
it's June next year in 2022 that Microsoft is retiring Internet Explorer for good. So something to think about. So, Mike and I can work with you to, we can send you an email with steps you can follow to set up your computer to work with well-served to begin with, because it's hard to go to a brand new computer and fully use well-served. You have to put in some settings to make it work. So we have a pre-made email. If you don't want to follow the, approximately 10 steps required, you can reach out to Mike or myself and we can help you get that done pretty quickly. So, yeah. Next up, this is a little small, but I'm going to go actually to the phishing website. So spoofing, phishing emails, it's a constant problem. These things are getting more and more realistic. This is just showing one of those phishing emails. You might get a plain text email that looks like it's from your boss or maybe a coworker saying, can you purchase some gift cards for us or things like that. You might have seen that before. We've heard reps tell us about that. So that's just an example there. And then I want to switch to just really for a moment, the phishing.org website. Hopefully you can see this. They have a lot of examples of what phishing emails look like. So I just want to go through a few examples. Tech support scams is one of them. So that's a big one that's going on. There might be a phone number. If something pops up on your computer or in your email saying, call this number, and they have urgency, like do it as soon as possible. Be careful of that because a lot of these phone numbers, they'll answer and say, oh, it's Microsoft, and then they'll try to get you to connect them to your computer, and then they'll tell you, oh, look at the event viewer, and there's all these things, errors in there, but it's normal for the event viewer in Windows to have a bunch of errors. It doesn't mean you have an infection necessarily, but anyway, that's kind of I'm going off in the deep end there. Anyway, so here's a fake PayPal email that tries to get you to give up your credentials for PayPal. Here's a fake Microsoft notice, almost identical in appearance to an actual notice from Microsoft concerning unusual sign-in activity. You might have seen this on accounts you actually have, but here's a fake one. There's actually, like I mentioned, there's a phone number here that you would not want to call because that, for example, the email points users to a phony 800 number instead of kicking users to a credentials phish. Credentials phish means you click, for example, here you click review recent activity, and it says sign in to your Microsoft 365 account, and then you can review these activities. If you do that and it's not the real Microsoft login, you're giving your credentials to a hacker. So watch out for that. Infected attachments. So this is different. And the last thing was like an email that you click and go off to a website and maybe they phish your credentials. Here's an attachment to an email, like a Word file or something, or an HTML file, which is the type of file that runs on a website, but you can have them, sometimes you get these in your email. Be really cautious because HTML has the ability to have malicious JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the languages of web pages. And so, for example, someone got a HTML attachment in their email, they opened it and it goes to their browser and asks them to log in, and then they're trying to get your credentials. Here's one, it looks like a HTML file sent to someone via email and they opened it and you can see it's file, so it's on the computer, it's not on the website. It looks like an Adobe login, and if it's a fake Adobe login, and you would give up your credentials for Adobe if you logged into that. Macros with payloads. So here's a Word file that you might have been emailed. And Word files are quite common, maybe not as common anymore. PDFs are more common now. But here's a Word file, and if they'll urge you to click enable content. And if you do that, in this case, a malicious payload installs on your computer. And not only on your computer, but it would definitely, if it was, a Trojan or something, it would try to reach out to other computers that can connect, from your computer and infect those as well. So very careful, be very careful with these files. And I would not click enable content on a file in Microsoft Office before you really check. And I'm almost done, but here's social media exploits. So you're on some weird website and it says you want to add this extension to your browser. Be really careful with that, because extensions, like it says here, can read and change all your data on websites you visit. And so some extensions you add to your browser can be malicious and track you at the very least, or do more damage maybe. All right, let's go back to the presentation. Next up, ransomware. So ransomware is becoming a bigger problem. This year, there's more ransomware attacks than ever. It's getting really common all over the world, not just in the US, but famously, Colonial Pipeline was attacked by ransomware. And part of due diligence, if I go back really quick, part of due diligence would be like if an employee left your company and they had a login for something, you'd want to like close that down and get rid of it. What happened in the Colonial Pipeline is they were using VPNs, which I'll touch on in a minute, to connect to their network, maybe from on the road or at home or something. And there was an account no longer being used. Maybe it was an employee that left and they just forgot to delete the account. It was left active on their VPN connection. And then for some reason, the password for that account leaked out. And the attackers from Russia most likely used that to log in and infect the entire company with ransomware. And then, Colonial could not track their billing for all the oil being pumped through the Colonial Pipeline. They shut down the whole pipeline. So ransomware didn't shut down the pipeline pumping. The company did when they could not do their billing anymore. So it makes sense. But so there's an example of ransomware. Ransomware is also, attackers are reaching out to small organizations like city councils or like dentist office, various offices. The first thing they do is go to the website and see how much information about the company they can find, like who is the president, vice president, and the main people, executives. And then they fashion emails that they send to the other employees that they got through the website and ask for gift cards or ask for various things. And eventually they might be able to attack, because they're trusted by the people that receive these emails. So it's very scary. So what do we do about ransomware? As always, be careful of links you click on, things like that. What can you do to your computer to help with this? You may already have like third-party software helping with this. We often say Windows 10 does a pretty good job with the built-in Windows Defender software, the antivirus and firewall software built into Windows 10. So if we look here, it's a little hard to see here, but this is the Windows Defender. Sorry about that. This is the Windows Defender ransomware, the protection settings that recently came to Windows 10, I think the last year or so. You can go in, if you use Windows Defender for your antivirus, you can look down by your clock and there's that shield, so you could take and click once on it and it opens the Windows Defender screen, which after you open it, you may see this ransomware protection. You can turn on controlled folder access, which I believe protects certain folders on your computer from being encrypted by the ransomware. Also, ransomware data recovery. If you are signed into Microsoft OneDrive, which you may know is Microsoft's cloud storage, kind of like Dropbox, but it's Microsoft's. If you're signed into that, you may be able to set it up to, so not only is there's this data recovery here, but down here, you can set up common folders, for example, your desktop, your documents folder, and your pictures folder to synchronize with OneDrive. And well, you're wondering, like, how does that help? Well, any cloud storage, if you have set to sync all files on your computer in that folder up to the cloud, up to their service. For example, all folders and files in Dropbox normally sync up to Dropbox, your account online. Same with OneDrive, if you're syncing all folders. For example, these folders you're backing up from your computer. Yeah, if ransomware is able to encrypt these folders on your computer and make them unavailable to you, I didn't really mention what to do if you get ransomware. The FBI encourages people that get infected by this to not pay the ransom. Although if you have no backups, and we've seen, even the Washington, D.C. Capitol Police were recently attacked by ransomware, and they offered $100,000 to the ransom group, but they wanted 10 million or something. So don't pay the ransom. It encourages them to do more. It makes it a profitable business. So it's hard, I know. So, all right, so let's move on. VPN. So what is VPN? VPN is a way of being on a public network, for example, the internet. The internet collectively means all connections in the world all together. But generally the internet is like a Wild West. When you plug your computer directly into it without a router, you get attacked and stuff by automated scripts and stuff. So VPN can be used in a couple different ways. A lot of people think of a VPN to, if you're connecting an airport or a coffee shop or library or other places, and you're not trusting the Wi-Fi there as far as your privacy, a VPN can create a private network inside a public network. So a VPN, for example, an app you can get, Express VPN. It's a pretty good, well-created VPN service that you can get for your smartphone, your computer. If you're signed into that, then let's say you're in a place where you connect to Wi-Fi with no password, and that's kind of sketchy sometimes. So if you connect your VPN, you can connect out to some other place securely. So then the ISP you're on cannot see the traffic you're doing, monetize you that way. There's other uses of VPN. A larger company, for example, Harbor, or a bigger company, may have a VPN set up right at the network interface, right by the servers there, so that from the outside, you can connect. If you're at home or on the road and you have the right VPN app that goes with your VPN setup in your network, you can connect that VPN, and then say from the road, a hotel or home, you can connect to, like, you're at work. And that may not make a lot of sense if in your office you don't have any special apps. In a recent call that we did here, I mentioned the VPN thing. And if you don't have any special apps that run at work, only at work, then it may not make sense to VPN into your work. But some people do, like Harbor, we do. We have things that you have to be here or VPN in to use certain things. So if you have more questions about that, you can reach out to me and we can talk more about VPNs, how you might be able to use it. So, all right. Next step, Windows 10. So Windows 10's been improved and upgraded over the years. The first few years, Windows 10's been out about 5 years. The first few years, there were quite large upgrades to Windows 10. Many of you remember when there was a large, big number upgrade to Windows 10, you said install and reboot now. And then for a half an hour, your computer was rebooting and installing Windows 10. And you're like, I got to get stuff done. What's going on here? I'm about to present somewhere, what's going on. But in recent years, Microsoft's put out smaller updates, more bug fixes, not big features, new features that confuse people. For example, Windows 7 and Windows 8 was very confusing, shoehorning the tablet interface into Windows, So they're not doing that anymore. It's too dramatic. The latest Windows 10 update that became available in the last week or two, you can go click Start, and then right above the Start menu on your computer, click the gear for settings, and then click Windows Update. And then you might have to click check for updates at the top, but then you may see this, where I have outlined in red at the top on the image there. At this time, Microsoft's not going to push down the latest Windows 10 upgrade, the Windows 10 21 H1. They're going to ask, do you want to get it? Or, at some later time, they might automatically slate, like a year or two from now. If you have not updated yet, they might include that in the download to get you to be on a newer, safer, more protected version of Windows 10. Then, at this time, you can choose to click download and install within that box up there. So this one is mostly a bug fix upgrade instead of, like I said, the big upgrade we've seen a couple years ago with lots of new features that can be confusing sometimes. And so it should install pretty quickly instead of the lengthy restart and boot times we saw a couple years ago. So the reports coming out right now are showing that it's not breaking a lot of things like some Windows updates did over the years. So I think you could pretty much get this one, the 21H1, and I've noticed on the few computers I've installed it on at home and a couple here at work that after rebooting, you have to reboot to get it installed. The computer's slightly snappier, and it seems like there was a bug fix update that improved a few things. That's nice, to get that kind of thing happening. So if you have questions about that, let me know. And the last thing we want to talk about, cybersecurity. And I was going to reach out to Jim here, see if you wanted to talk about that.
Yes, we've had a couple, I guess, questions or comments about cybersecurity insurance. I just wanted to share with you what Harbor has in place. First thing is, as part of our E&O policy, we do have what's called a privacy breach extension, which covers network intrusions. And we have the aggregate limits there, $100,000 with a $5,000 deductible. So again, that's our E&O policy. As far as our business insurance, we do also have a rider that we added for the cybersecurity side. And as it states there, we have about $1 million in additional coverage for data compromise, loss of business from a cyber attack, forensics, and cyber extortion. And as stated there, this is something you might want to look into for yourself, for your own business insurance if you don't already have it in place. With you guys having smaller businesses, you might be able to get a better rate than what we have as part of our coverage as well. So that really sums up our tech update for the week, unless Mike or Ben have anything additional to add.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add, really, just to reiterate again, with anything we've covered today, if you have any questions or any hesitations, if you get an email, looks like it's a little sketchy or might be a phishing email, it's always better to be cautious about this stuff than to try to go back and fix something. So if you run into something you're not sure, give us a call. Either Ben and myself, we can take a look and use our judgment to help you determine that. Sometimes you might get an email too, for example, that looks like it's a phishing email, and it might not be. It might just be totally fine. But it's always good, we can kind of go through our checklist of making sure. So just want to reiterate, use this as a resource, and we can definitely help proactively. So
yeah. And I just want to add quick that, like, if you call and say, call me back, I have something to tell you. And you could just, if you get a phishing looking email, you can forward it to Mike and I right away, and maybe add your little note at the top. This looks fishy. What do you think, Ben or Mike or whatever? And send it to us right away. We're not going to get infected right away or anything. But then we can see it and think about it, and then talk to you soon, reply or call you. So feel free to forward them to us and add your little note. And we already have a lot of reps doing that already every week. A number of them, not the same people, but a number of people are, a number of reps and assistants are now forwarding these strange emails to us, which is kind of weird to see that come in. But I actually add them to our cybersecurity incident log, even if you get the email. So feel free to do that. And I think we had a chat question here. All right, it's a pretty big area here. Okay. All right. Okay, I read an article this morning that FBI's Bens have gotten back a lot of the Bitcoin ransom hardware. Yeah, I heard that yesterday. Actually, a few days ago over the weekend, I was watching a tech podcast, and they're saying part of Colonial Pipeline is down, and they're Bitcoin account is down and not available because normally with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, you can see the ledger, the blockchain, and view all transactions ever made. But over the last weekend, a lot of experts are saying that they couldn't see that anymore. And then yesterday it was revealed that the FBI has intercepted some of the Bitcoin that Colonial Pipeline paid to the Russian ransomers. I think it was something like $21 million of it, which is part of what they paid. So I think that's true, John. Thanks for pointing that out. So I don't think the FBI is in place to do that with every ransomware attack, but this was these are the kind of ransomware attacks that not only FBI, but many experts are fearing. This is the next, the war surface, basically. There's all kinds of ransomware going around the world, and it's crazy. So there's all kinds of stuff going on there.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, if private companies are willing to pay the ransom to get their systems back online, it could lead to a bad precedent down the road too.
Yeah. And it used to be ransomware a few years ago when it was a budding thing starting. Ransomers would just say, we've encrypted your data on your computers, so pay this amount. That was about it. But now there's a new thing going on where they now say we've removed data from your network and copied it off your network to somewhere else, and they threaten you with that. That's obviously ransomware, right? But the initial ransomware did not take the data off the network. Usually it encrypted it on your, at rest on your computer. And now some ransomwares are exfiltrating data out of your network and threatening you with public release of that. So it's getting more scary, ransomware. Next question, Aaron, is there a technology at Harvard send those to? Yeah, so that's a good point, Aaron. Mike and I mentioned you can send us emails, forward us phishing emails, things like that. You can forward them also to technology@harborinv.com. And then between a few of us here, we'll take care of it and get back to you. So that's a great point, that we have this recently created technology@harborinv.com email address. Go ahead and use that to send questions over about various technology things. So, yeah. And I don't know if there's no more chat questions. Is there anyone that wants to chime in to ask anything over audio or anything like that? I don't know if we have any, maybe I should get.
I think we're all good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
All right. Well, as Ben mentioned, if you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out via phone or via email. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. And we're coming up on 11 o'clock, so I think we'll just end things here. Thank you for joining us and hope you all have a good week. Take care.
Thanks so much. Take care.